am at 1.2.2, I
Okay.
believe.
So fallacious reasoning.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick overview because at the end of this unit, you're gonna have to do like an evaluate a speech. So I'm just
Okay.
gonna kind of go through the lessons and kind of review some key points with you, and then
Mhm.
we will kind of go from there. So you learned about ethos, pathos, and logos. Do you remember
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay. So ethos was like the author's credibility. So like if I started doing a speech on um, the benefits of a prescription medicine for men in their 60s, I would not be credible, right? Like I have no experience. I'm a teacher. I wouldn't be credible. So that'd be an example of a
Right.
non-credible person. But if I was going to give a
Okay.
speech on the importance of literacy for young children, I would be extremely credible, right? Because I'm an English
Yes.
teacher.
Mhm.
So ethos has to do with credibility. And I think ethos, to remember that one, oh, I'll skip back to that one, but ethos
Okay.
means credibility. Okay, so
Mhm.
pathos, the easy way that I memorize what pathos means is empathy, sympathy, apathy. All of those words have path in it. So
Mhm.
you know what sympathy is, right? Like
Yes.
to sympathize, and empathize is to feel what somebody else is feeling.
Mhm.
So, like in a speech where you're trying to persuade someone, it is so important to include pathos, because if people don't feel something, they're
Mhm.
gonna not care, right? Like
Okay.
whenever I think of pathos, I think of like those commercials that come on with the dogs that are being like
Oh.
abused. You know what I'm saying? And that's,
Yeah, I
it's
forgot
like
what it's called.
you can't watch it. You can't watch
Yeah, it's
it because
sad.
it
It's
is
sad.
so sad. So that's an example of pathos. And if you're missing pathos, you're probably not going to connect to your audience and it won't be that persuasive. So pathos, think empathy, think feelings, the emotion that goes in a
Mhm.
persuasive
Mhm.
speech. And then logos is like the logic. So logo, think logic. Logo, logic. So logic, um, people who are persuaded by logic want to see the statistics. They want to see the facts. They want to see the
Mhm.
numbers. And that's important in a persuasive speech too, because you want to be able to prove what you're saying, is feasible and logical to people. So logic or logos, think logic. Pathos, think empathy, feelings, and then ethos, think credibility, like the
Mhm.
ethic of the other thing that ethos can mean is like ethic. So like, if I'm a person that tells lies all the time and then gets up and delivers a speech about being truthful, that's going to ring untrue. So
Mhm.
ethos, think credibility or ethic of the character. All right, so we got that, and you did a few, I think you probably did a few activities with that.
Mhm.
I can't see that right now, but then the next lesson, did you get to fallacious reasoning or
Mm,
just started it maybe?
yeah, I just started it because I know I was in between 1.2. I have to check my work. Let me see, 1.2.2. I don't think I got that far. I think I was just on.
Okay,
Um,
this one,
I,
Randy, I'm gonna, because it's a video that you have to watch, so I'm gonna skip through that because there's not like
okay.
words that I can talk about.
Okay,
And
I
you can
did
watch
that.
that on your own time, yeah. But when you're watching the video, some best practices would even be to look at the activity that you have to do after. So you'd see, okay, I need to
Mhm.
pay attention to this type of fallacious reasoning, ad hominem, quo quo, um, authority, ad hominem, and black and white. So just looking at the questions that you're going to have to answer kind of gets your brain like primed for thinking about the answers.
Mhm.
Um, and then let's see, what's this? Oh, and then this one is kind of funny because it has to do with politics. So it's like three fallacies that are used often when people are speaking. Um, for example, politicians. So then you'll do an activity with that. Two activities looks like. Okay, then we can do lesson 1-3, and I think we could actually do it together. So if you have your class open or whatever, you could probably just do it together with me. I think I wrote this lesson, so I'm kind of going off of memory, but we can, like I said, go through it together. So lesson 1-3 is about evaluating a speaker. You are going to, these are objectives, so you're going to evaluate a speaker, identify the point of view, identify bias. Brandy, have you heard of the term bias before?
I've heard of it.
Yep. Okay. So bias means warping a viewpoint to one side. So like any commercial for any advertisement is bias because they're trying to get you to buy something. Right? No commercial is going to say, well, you should buy it, but here are the reasons why you shouldn't buy it, right? Nobody's going to say that because they want you to buy it. So other examples of things that are biased are politicians, obviously biased because they want you to vote for them. So any politician is going to give you a biased viewpoint. Some news articles can be biased. So that's something that you're going to have to kind of clarify yourself. If you feel like they're only supporting one side of the story, then that would be bias. Typically, news articles or news in general should try to be objective, which means without a bias. So, some are better than others, but like an opinion piece is obviously biased because it's promoting one side of the argument. So bias just means they are only showing one side. And then the next objective is you're going to assess persuasive techniques. And this is like a little introduction. We're going to skip. You can read that if you want on your own time. All right, so let's see if we can, I think this is oh, okay, let's see. That's why I forgot this. Okay, so this is a speech from, this actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, but he's speaking about, he's speaking at the United Nations Climate Summit in 2014. You can watch the speech, which I think would be good, but because we're just working together, I'll probably read it to you so that we can stop and kind of evaluate it a little bit. If you were doing this on your own, what I would do is I'd open the speech up and then I would listen to him talk through it. It's so much better to have somebody speak the words and then also see them at the same time. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, let's see the speech. All right, so this is the whole speech. That's it. So I'm going to read it to you, if that's cool with you. And then we can kind of stop and talk about like ethos, pathos, and logos and where they're being shown in his speech. So before you read anything, best practice is to think about what you already know about the topic. So, all right, I'll model that for you. So what I know about this topic, okay, climate change, what I know about climate change, and what I know about Leonardo DiCaprio. All right, Leonardo DiCaprio, I know that he's was in the Titanic, the movie, right? I know he's an actor. He's famous. He's famous, like very, very famous. I don't know much else about him other than he's an actor and he's famous. And he has a beard here, apparently. So I can recognize his face. But yeah, he's an actor. I don't know too much more about him. Climate change. All right, what I know about climate change is, that the weather's changing, that it's, it's perhaps messing with the the climate of our earth and affecting people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is there anything else you know about climate change?
Mm, well, I know I was just reading on it the last few weeks. I know it controls our weather.
Yeah.
Um, and it controls the weather inside of our ocean, as far as our
Yeah.
ice caps and glaciers melting.
Yeah, you got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, and so that's it. So that's great. We know a little bit about Leonardo DiCaprio, and we know a little bit about climate change. And so it's just good to, instead of just blindly going into something you're reading about, think about what you already know. It sounds funny, but
Mhm.
every time you consciously try to make connections, your brain will remember a lot more. So it's just more
Mhm.
effective for you to make those connections. It's just like when you're talking to someone and they're like, you know, oh, so and so said this, and then you're like, oh, I don't know so and so, but I know somebody who knows somebody. I mean, your brain's
Mhm.
constantly making those connections. So
Mhm.
just try to help. It's just it's good. It's good to help you remember it. All right, so I'm going to read this. I'll stop and kind of guide us with any questions.
Okay.
So here we go. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Oh, and he's speaking at the climate summit. All right, so I'm assuming this has to do at the United Nations. Um,
Mhm.
so it obviously has to do with climate and climate change. All right, he says, thank you, Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. Okay, right now I know this sounds very, very formal. Okay, this is a very formal speech, just from
Mhm.
that first line, right? He's not up there like, hey guys, thanks for having me, and then telling a bunch of jokes.
Mhm.
So it's very
Mhm.
formal. I'm honored to be here today. I stand before you not as an expert, but as a concerned citizen, one of the 400,000 people who marched in the streets of New York on Sunday, and the billions of others around the world who want to solve our climate crisis. As an actor, I pretend for a living. I play fictitious characters, often solving fictitious problems. I believe humankind has looked at climate change in the same way, as if it were a fiction happening to someone else's planet, as if pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. But I think we know better than that. Every week we're seeing new and undeniable climate events, evidence that accelerated climate change is here now. We know that droughts are intensifying, our oceans are warming and acidifying, like what you said, Brandy. With methane plumes rising up from beneath the ocean, we are seeing extreme weather events, increased temperatures, and the West Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets melting at unprecedented rates decades ahead of scientific projections. All right, right there, this whole thing is pathos because it's signaling like stress, right? Like anxiety, saying all
Mhm.
these things are happening before anybody was ready and before scientists were saying it was going to happen. Okay, so that's just like fear, right? So he's kind of priming. This is going to be persuasive. He's priming us, stating basically like we need to pay attention to this because it's happening faster than we think. All right. None of this is rhetoric and none of it is hysteria. So then he says, hey, I'm not trying to scare you. Hysteria means like you're panicking. Not trying to
Mhm.
scare you, but it's fact. So he's saying, like, I'm not actually trying to persuade you. I'm just stating what's fact. So
Mhm.
this you can you can use that as he's might be being sneaky with his persuasive because he's saying, hey, I'm not actually using fear. I'm just stating the facts. Take it or
Mhm.
leave it. The scientific community knows it, industry and governments know it, even the United States military knows it. The chief of the U.S. Navy's Pacific Command, Admiral Samuel Locklear, recently said that climate change is our single greatest security threat. My friends, this body, perhaps more than any other gathering in human history, now faces that difficult task. You can make history or be vilified by it. To be clear, this is not just about, oh, and this is fact, is probably appealing to logos, right? The logic, it's fact.
Mhm.
Um, To be clear, this is not about just telling people to change their light bulbs or to buy a hybrid car. The disaster has grown beyond the choices that individuals make. This is now about our industries and governments around the world taking decisive, large-scale action. I'm not a scientist, but I don't need to be because the world's scientific community has spoken and they have given us our prognosis. If we do not act together, we will surely perish. Now is our moment for action. All right, so now he's telling us like what we need to do. So he said the pathos, the logos, and even him saying I'm an actor. Um, is kind of showing his credibility. He's saying he's just a citizen. He's trying to remain humble, I guess. So that would be kind of ethos there. All right, to be clear, this is not, oh wait, let's see. Oh, now is our moment for action. We need to put a price tag on carbon emissions and eliminate government subsidies for coal, gas, and oil companies. We need to end the free ride that industrial polluters have been given in the name of a free market economy. They don't deserve our tax dollars, they deserve our scrutiny. For the economy itself will die if our ecosystems collapse. The good news is that renewable energy is not only achievable, but good economic policy. New research shows that by 2050, clean, renewable energy could supply 100% of the world's energy using existing technologies and would create millions of jobs. Okay, you tell me, Brandy, is that ethos, pathos, or logos? What do you think?
Let me see. New research shows that by 2015. It's supposed to be a fact.
Yeah. So which one is that?
We don't know.
Which one
is it logos?
You got it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. You got it. Yeah. So yeah, he's trying to use logos right there. Nice job. This is not a partisan debate. It is a human one. Clean air and water and a livable climate are inalienable human rights, and solving this crisis is not a question of politics. It's our moral obligation, if admittedly a daunting one. We only get one planet. Humankind must become accountable on a massive scale for the wanton destruction of our collective home. All right, this is probably, actually, you tell me.
The pathos?
You got it. Oh, yeah, you're getting this. Yep, because he's saying, Earth is our home, right? That's supposed to make us feel. Protecting our future on this planet depends on the conscious evolution of our species. This is the most urgent of times and the most urgent of messages. We didn't talk about this one either, but this one's an example of kairos, which means time sensitive. A lot of other persuasive techniques mean they try to get you to do something. Hey, Rachel. They try to get you to do something like very fast. Like advertisements do that all the time. Like, you need to buy this now because it's only on sale for one more day. So that's another. But we're not talking about that one. That one's just like extra credit. All right.
Okay.
Honored delegates, leaders of the world, I pretend for a living, but you do not. The people made their voices heard on Sunday around the world, and the momentum will not stop. And now it's your turn. The time to answer the greatest challenge of our existence on this planet is now. I beg you to face it with courage and honesty. Thank you. So same thing. He's saying, like, you need to do something now. So that's also a persuasive technique. All right. So in summary, when you're reading a speech, if you had to do this by yourself, play the speech, look at the words at the same time. Okay, that's best practice. It's really good to hear how he sounds too, because he is an actor, so his speech delivery is probably really good. So if you wanted to, you could go back and listen to it. But since we don't have time for that, and because I read it already, we can go to the questions. So I don't know if you have access to your course right now, but we could probably just go through it if you wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to switch screens and do all of that.
Okay. You could maybe just take quick, like you could just jot down notes, basically what we talk about, and then you should probably be able to do it. All right, so it looks like quite a few questions, and I think it's just one page here. So I'm kind of running from memory. So we'll see how we do here. All right, is DiCaprio, so that's the speaker, for or against action to fight climate change?
He's for it.
Yeah, definitely for, right? Because he says you need to act now.
Yeah.
Okay, bias means one-sided in an argument. Do you think this speech is bias? What do you think?
Well, I mean, he's the only person speaking.
He's the only person speaking? Good point. Excellent.
Let me see. I mean, it has his Right, but then he's bringing in everybody else's sides and their opinions from what they think is going on.
Yeah.
Mm, that's probably one I probably would have got wrong.
So what do you think?
um,
Do you think it's biased? Yes or no? What do you think? We'll talk about it. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong.
I mean, he's arguing this, so I would say yes. I would say yes. This is
Yeah.
his one-sided argument.
Hey, Katrina, you just, oh, she's out. Never mind. Yeah, you are exactly right, Randy. It's hard because with this speech, he's saying, he's not like vilifying people in it, but it is one-sided. And even if a speech is persuasive, and I mean, you could be talking about, the argument to recycle, right? Like nobody's going to disagree with that. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's good to recycle. But if you're just only talking about the benefits of recycling, it's still considered one-sided. So
Mhm.
bias doesn't necessarily mean bad or good. It just means one-sided, right? So you're
Mhm.
correct.
Mhm.
All right, DiCaprio said he was not an expert, but rather a what?
Concerned citizen.
You got it. Wow. Nice. I was going to have us go back to the text. So I know, you're awesome. Yeah. So he says an expert, but a concerned citizen. Nice work. Okay. DiCaprio uses the analogy of his profession as an actor being similar to the American people on the topic of climate change. What was similar between the two? Okay. So I personally don't remember. Do you remember?
Let me see. I want to say I like to pick two answers. I've been
That's
doing that for
okay.
years.
Which one do
Um,
you think?
I want to say C and D, but I'm trying to push my brain back to see what we just read.
Okay, so
He said
so
both are
Brandy,
pretending. Or
so
both
Brandy, what you
influencing.
do at this point, you've narrowed it down to 50-50 chance, right? Excellent job. You're correct. C or D are correct. So
Mhm.
then you got to go back to the text, and that's what good readers do. So we'll go back,
Mhm.
um, and it says profession as an actor being similar to American people. All right. Ah, it's right here. I know it's right here. So we reread this. As an actor, I pretend for a living. I play fictitious characters, often solving fictitious problems. I believe humankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were a fiction happening to someone else's planet.
Mhm.
What do you think? As if
Mm,
pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. C or D?
both are pretending because they don't say anything about influencing others.
You got it. Exactly. Say as if pretending, right? And I
Yes.
pretend. Nice work. Good job. Okay, how could DiCaprio make this statement even stronger? The good news is that renewable energy is not only achievable, but good economic policy. New research shows that by 2050, clean renewable energy could supply 100% of the world's energy needs using existing technologies, and it would create millions of jobs. This one says mark all correct answers. So what would make this
Mhm.
statement stronger? Probably cite where he found the facts, because he
Yeah.
could be like
Mhm.
saying that, right?
Right.
Um, deliver it with an emotional story. Yeah, that could make it a lot
Mhm.
um, more strong, or a lot stronger. Take it out
Okay.
as it doesn't represent logos.
Logic.
That's incorrect, right? Because it does
No.
represent logos.
Right.
Or repeat it. I don't think
Repeat
repeating
it.
this entire
No.
statement. Yeah. So I think we'd probably go with A and B there. All right, next one. Why
Mhm.
does DiCaprio include this disclaimer? None of this is rhetoric, and none of it is hysteria. It is fact. The scientific community knows it. Industry and governments know it. Even the United States military knows it. Um, why does he include that? Okay, so this is a good time to go back to the text too. He says it right here
Mhm.
after after he said all of this stuff, remember he was talking about the ice caps, extreme weather,
Yeah.
melting, and we're like, oh, this is like scary, right? It's like it's
Yeah.
stressing me out to think of all these things. And then he says, well, hey, like I'm not trying to make you scared. It's fact. This has already been proven or something. Okay. So why does he do that? So let's look at this. He doesn't want to sound like he's inciting fear or hysteria. He wants to discredit his sources, which that would just be bad persuasive, so it can't be B. He wants to let everyone in on the secret. He wants to use the effect of dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when when the character in a story doesn't know something, but it's not an example of dramatic irony. So it's between A and C. What do you think?
I would say A.
Why?
It goes with the story. Just him speaking about it, trying to inform everybody about what's going on. He doesn't want to scare them, and he also, doesn't want them to think that he's, scared or anything like that in fear.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Brandy. Good job. Yeah, he wants to sound like he's not trying to use scare tactics, right? That he's just saying, no, this is already like happening. Yeah, okay. All right, we got 4 more questions here. All right, why does DiCaprio, already 3 more questions. Okay, what is DiCaprio's purpose for speaking? People in the room should take action on climate change. People should vote for him. People should talk about the subject. People should tell scientists about the subject. What do you think?
A.
Yep, you are correct.
People should take action against it,
Yep, he directly states that. Yep, good job. What does DiCaprio ask the audience to do? Live out your dream, become an actor, forget about the speech, face the issue with courage and honesty.
D.
You got it. Last one. This quote is an example of ethos, pathos, or logos. The good news is that renewable energy is not only achievable, but good economic policy. New research shows, we already talked about this one. New research shows that by 2050, clean renewable energy could supply 100% of the world's energy needs using existing technologies, and it would create millions of jobs. Ethos, pathos, or logos?
Logos.
You got it. All right, let's see if we woo, 100%.
Oh, yay.
All right. So in summary, Randy, because this is practicing, good comprehension and literacy skills. So some strategies that we use today in this lesson would be to read the whole speech, right? Read what you're supposed to be getting, answering questions on. Some students do. It helps you to read it, right? If you can listen to the speech at the same time, that's like really good for your brain. So like just how I read it aloud to you, it's just like anytime you can try, like if you were in a classroom, a teacher you'd have it in front of you and then a teacher might read it aloud too. So it's just good practice to hear it. So if there's audio provided, it's a good idea to listen to it, and especially a speech, because you can read, we didn't get a chance to read the body language of him, but that gives you another kind of clue on his persuasive techniques and stuff. So watch the speech and then have the words in front of you too. And then notice how many times that we read a question and we didn't remember and we went back to the text. So good readers constantly go back. They don't just read it one time and remember everything.
I read it several times.
Yeah, you got to read it. And honestly, sometimes it takes, if I'm reading a text that is challenging for me and it's out of my comfort zone, I read it a lot. I read it like 2 or 3 times. So sometimes it feels discouraging, because if like other people read it and they just read it once and know all the answers, well, that's cool. It might be in their own, comfort zone, but good. And every reader will find something that they can't comprehend the first time. So
Right.
just a reminder that good readers, if they realize when they're not understanding something and they go back and forth. The other thing that we did was there was some like technical words in here. Not technical, but like if you didn't know what hysteria meant, or if you didn't know, if you had no knowledge of climate change, but you already did. So
Hmm.
you might, if you had no idea what climate change was, maybe you would Google it and just know a little bit about it before you read the speech, because that would help you comprehend it too. So yeah, I think that's probably, I was kind of hoping that Shirley would come back on, so I could do a lesson with her too. But so that's like the main like application of skills for unit 1. So you've got a pretty good handle on that, which would be good. So do you have
Hmm.
any other questions for me
I haven't
about
even
the course?
skimmed through everything. Usually I skim through everything to see what I have to do first.
Yeah,
Um, but just like all of that, I can get that. It's just like when it comes to the writing, like what I
right,
need to write, I usually struggle with it just a little bit.
right.
My last paper, it took me about a week.
Brandy,
Really a week.
that's kind of like,
Um,
that's kind of normal. Um,
okay.
I wouldn't be discouraged by that. Yeah, that just means, honestly, I wouldn't be discouraged about that, because that just means you're being thorough. Um,
Yeah.
and then so some best practices, because the next thing you're going to have to write is a speech here. And
Okay.
I made a I've taught on this speech, so I actually have a YouTube lesson on it. So if you
Hmm.
get confused or it's not submitted in the right format, I usually send the link to you on like the feedback of your assignment. But
Okay.
anyways, the assignment is, what is it? Is it a wedding speech? Oh yeah, okay. So this is like if you were gonna give a speech at like your best friend's wedding or something. Um,
Oh.
yeah, and so it gives you the format. So you're gonna be writing a formal speech,
Hmm.
like if you would be giving a toast. It's not gonna be
Okay.
super long. It's actually kind of a fun topic, because you can pick like a
Yeah.
friend. Your friend doesn't have to be getting married. It can just be written about a friend.
Okay.
Um, so this is, you'll recognize my voice, because this is this video. I would watch any essay,
Hmm.
and I saw somebody, hey Kanisha, glad to have you in the course, or the lesson. We're kind of talking about English 10 semester 2, because Brandy here was working on that course. So but you can chime in with any questions that you might have. Anyway, so any essay, there's usually a video with it, and watch that video, because it gives you a really good
Hmm.
idea of how to organize it. Um,
Hmm.
and then this is going to be like your format for the speech. So I can kind of walk you through if you want, just so you have an idea. But
Okay.
it's it's going to be four paragraphs in length. Um,
Okay.
we talk about these terms: hook, bridge, and
Hmm.
thesis. Have you heard that before? And you took English 9, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hmm.
So, the hook is going to be something interesting. The bridge is going to connect to the thesis. And then this is like a thesis. This thesis is already given for you, because you're going to
Hmm.
be talking
Okay.
about two
Good.
qualities.
Good.
Yeah, two qualities that your friend has. So then you
Okay.
take those two qualities, you write one paragraph about each one. So say your best quality is that your friend's really funny. So one of her best qualities is her sense of humor. And then you
Hmm.
give a concrete detail. So that's like a story. It can basically just be a
Hmm.
story. Like one time she was super funny because she did this or whatever. Another time was blah, 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 blah. And then the commentary is your opinion on that story. So you could say, like, even in the worst of circumstances, my friend um, always has time to laugh, whatever. And then the concluding sentence kind of restates your topic. So obviously, my friend has a great sense of humor.
Hmm.
Okay. So that would be only about a sense of humor or whatever trait you want to write about. And then your second paragraph is going to be only about that second trait. So maybe the other characteristic would be she's very loyal. Like
Hmm.
maybe been our best friends since you were kids running around outside. I don't know. And then so you'd write how this person was your friend from when you were in kindergarten or when you were in high school or whatever. And give examples of that, and then your opinion on that sentence. And then you restate your thesis in a different way. So you just say, as you can see, my best friend is funny and loyal. Bridge is going to kind of be creative and transition to the memorable idea. And then the memorable idea is like a hook for your conclusion, like something that's going to remind you or remind your reader how awesome your speech was. So if it can be funny, it can be, you know, maybe it's like funny, references one of the funny stories you told in the speech or whatever. But anyways, it's only going to be 4 paragraphs long.
Okay. I think I could do it.
Yeah, I think you could do it too, Brady. So yeah, that's your next writing thing. And then the end of semester 2 ends with another informative essay and informative presentation. So it's on an organization that you think is changing the world. So a lot of students pick something like, I would love if students would pick like a local community program or something, like some students,
like the local pantries or something.
Yeah, like Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
Or like food pantries, or like it can even be something like an organization that has served your family, or you volunteered with this organization. Some people write about like a church organization.
Okay.
But anyway, something that's like personal to you would be the best, because then it's actually fun.
Okay.
I think, at least. So just you can already kind of, your brain can already start to kind of think like, what organization am I going to be writing about? But yeah, that's what you have to look forward to. So I think you got a really great handle on the writing. And like I said, if it's taking you a week, that's really not that. Don't feel bad about that, because it takes a while for writing is hard. Writing is hard. Like, it's not, you know, it's not something that people just pick up. It's difficult. So all right. Well, Kanisha, I don't know if you're muted or not, but sorry, Brandy and I were just kind of going over English 10 semester 2, because that was the course she was in. But if you want to chime in on the chat or unmute yourself, you can ask me any questions you have. I think. Hey, Kanisha.
Hey, pretty much what you're talking to her about, I'm actually needing help on the same thing on. So pretty much you guys is kind of helping me, because I just been listening.
Cool. So did you? We just did we did an evaluate. We did unit 2 evaluating a speech, but I hope I. Oh yeah, good. I forgot, or I thought I forgot to record it, but I am recording it. So I can send you this YouTube video too if you want to know how to evaluate a speech. That was from unit 2. And then we were talking about this speech from English 10 semester 2. I'm so glad that you were able to find that relevant to you. Do you have any other questions, Kanisha?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Cool. Both of you, I think you're both in my class. If you have any further questions about anything, your speech or how to start it or whatever, send me an email or a chat message. And also, I'm running this lesson next week at the same time, I think. So yeah, it's been kind of fun because we've only had a couple people on Fridays. I get it because it's a Friday, but it's been fun because I can really work through some assignments with everyone. So I'm super glad you found this helpful, both of you. Have a great weekend.
You
if there's
too.
any questions.
Oh no, I'll get to